Night before last, as I was thinking about this gathering, I had a flashback to the first time I set foot on the Colorado Plateau, this landscape that is captured in large part in the slide that we have up there. It was in 1976. My professional career was in the Midwest up until that time. And I was flown from where I was working in Ohio to Montrose, Colorado in the fall of 1976 to be interviewed for a job in Colorado, a job for working for the state of Colorado. And the governor of Colorado, a fellow named Dick Lamb, was my interviewer, and he insisted that I meet with him while he was doing some field work on the western slope of the Rockies in Montrose. And so I landed in Montrose in a prop plane at the time after a very bumpy flight from Denver to Gunnison to Montrose that some of you might be able to appreciate. I remember it because I suffer and still from motion sickness, and it was just an awful flight. So I landed in Montrose and got off with an interview with Governor Dick Lamb, whom I didn't know, but I learned very quickly that I don't think it's a coincidence that both his first name and his last name are four-letter words. I was interviewing for a job in Colorado where I was going to deal with a number of environmental issues of the time. Now, this is nearly 40 years ago. And some of the issues at the time were very serious air pollution problems in Denver that still persist today. Flunked that one. There was a big and very old steel mill in Pueblo, Colorado that had some serious environmental challenges. The oil shale era of Rifle and Meeker and the western slope was very timely issues of concern. There were massive uranium mine tailing and mill tailing piles around western Colorado. And here I was being interviewed by a governor who had just finished a campaign to stop the U.S. Olympics, the Winter Olympics, from coming to Denver and Colorado. So his environmental track record was significant. And here I was interviewing for a job to go to work for this guy. And he was a colorful character. He still is a colorful character. And 5 minutes into my interview with him, he didn't ask a question. He started on a diatribe using four-letter words, talking about something called CAP. I didn't have a clue what CAP stood for. Nor did I have any, is this Colorado something or other? No. It was the Central Arizona Project. And he started talking about how the Central Arizona Project was going to rob the western slope of Colorado and Denver of its water supply, etc. Well, I knew nothing about this, but I ended up getting the job and learning a good deal about the Central Arizona Project, how it affected Colorado, how it affected the Southwest, and also the topic for this evening, which is the energy future for the Colorado Plateau and the Navajo Generating Station, which is tied very closely to the Central Arizona Project, as you will hear. The other thing I learned working for Governor Lamb for several years, and I was advised by his chief of staff very quickly, that when you go to a meeting with Governor Lamb, you'd better be wearing cowboy boots. I didn't own cowboy boots, but I bought a pair prior to my first meeting in the governor's office in the Capitol in Denver, and I'm still wearing those same pair of boots tonight. So these boots go back to 1976. Now, much of the rest of my body has changed in those ensuing years, but my feet still fit in these boots, and I'm very proud of that. We won't talk about the rest. Beginning, I'll say, with the Great Depression, the 1930s, and for a period of a couple of generations, 50 years, up until the late 20th century, our region experienced incredible change. The vast and very rapid growth of Denver, Salt Lake City, Phoenix, Las Vegas, the Southern California metropolises, that was their boom era. And as those cities boomed, they needed things like water and electricity. After all, many of those communities are not livable without air conditioning, and air conditioning requires electricity. Some would say they're not even livable with air conditioning, but I'm not going to debate that tonight. But regardless, water and energy was required by these rapidly growing cities. And where do they look to for that water and energy? Well, the closest place that had much water and hydropower and coal to produce electricity and uranium to power nuclear power plants was the Colorado Plateau, this region. This is where those cities looked. And this is the area that allowed and supported the development of those cities of the Southwest during that very much a boom era, using the resources and the technologies that were known and available in the Southwest at that time. And I'll call them 20th century technologies. Well, we're now in the 21st century. The cities are still there. Their need for water and electricity is still there. But we aren't building new dams. The Colorado River and its tributaries are pretty much exhausted with respect to utilizing hydropower. We're not building new coal-fired power plants for various reasons. One, the environmental concerns associated with coal-fired power plants. But in some cases, our coal supplies have disappeared. The nearest power plant to Flagstaff, the Cholla Generating Station in Joseph City, about 80 miles east of here, once was supplied with coal from northwestern New Mexico. Those mines are no longer available. The coal that comes to Joseph City, Arizona now starts in the Powder River Basin of Wyoming. That's where we have to go to get coal for our power plants. So times have changed. For many reasons, these technologies of the 20th century are not the technologies for the future of the Colorado Plateau. Well, what are they? And that's what we're here to talk about tonight, in part. What's next? What's next for our future? We do know some things, that our power plants are getting increasingly old. We're not building new coal-fired power plants anymore. We're not building new nuclear plants anymore. We're not building new dams. But we still need electricity and we still need water. What we've learned is that the wind blows much more consistently and much stronger through the mountain passes of California than it does here on the Colorado Plateau. And so we see these vast wind farms that are not only in the mountain passes of California, but they're also very near where the electricity is needed. It doesn't have to be transported over transmission lines for hundreds of miles to get to the electricity demand centers of Southern California. We also know that the sun shines very bright in the Mojave Desert, in the Sonoran Desert, those places that are in the backyards of Las Vegas and Phoenix. And so our solar plants are being built where the sun shines bright and it's very close to where the electricity is needed. Natural gas pipelines seem to be running over a goodly part of the Southwest, and natural gas-powered electricity is something that's in great demand these days, particularly since natural gas today is relatively cheap. So if we're going to build new natural gas power plants, which we have been doing for the last decade, why not build them along a pipeline that's in the suburbs of Phoenix? or suburban Las Vegas, because that's where they are. That's where we've built them. So the Colorado Plateau and the energy produced on the Colorado Plateau and the legacies of the energy produced on the Colorado Plateau have changed dramatically since the 20th century as we now embark upon the technologies of the 21st century. But where does that leave us? What's next? And what about those jobs? What about the environmental legacies of this 50-year period of energy development on the Colorado Plateau? Those are big questions. And there are big questions that our panel is going to talk about tonight, and there are big questions that I hope that you will talk with us about tonight, because this is a forum. And so after we've heard from our panelists, we'll also be hearing from you, and you'll hear me back up here again, and I'll say, okay, Mr. Jones, what's your comment or question for our panel? So we will have adequate time after we hear from our panelists to talk about the energy future of the Colorado Plateau and this amazing case study that is the Navajo Generating Station, that is the center of this circle that has been put up before you this evening. It's a fascinating story, and I hope that you will agree that it's worth your time to come out and participate in this evening.